Hi there, we're back with looking at Logos and Paratext, and we ended our last video with looking at guides and workflows and the basic Bible study, and now we're going to look at inductive Bible study, which is the main inductive Bible study is the main one that I want you to look at for doing your exegesis for your translation. So I want you to listen carefully as I go through this guide and let's work through this together. And let's start at the beginning. Let's start with maybe a passage on, let's see, Genesis. Let's do Exodus. What is a passage that hasn't been done? Exodus 6. Okay, so we look at Exodus 6. Okay, the observation stage of inductive Bible study involves reading the text closely and making sure you understand the basic details of the passage. In observation, you ask the basic questions of who, what, when, where, why, and how. It's very important to engage the text directly yourself before you look at study guides or other helps like study Bibles or commentaries. Asking questions of the study of the text yourself will help you navigate through the interpretive options provided by other resources. It's also important for you to read your passage in full before you start looking carefully into the details. So, your desired outcome, you will have a solid understanding of the basic facts of the passage. You will be deeply familiar with what your passage says and aware of what aspects present difficulties for understanding. Okay. The questions you will consider during the observation stage are: do you understand the basic facts of the passage? Do I follow the author's flow of thought in the passage? Have I become familiar with the literary context by reading text before and after this passage? Do I know what I need to study further? So this is really in depth, and I want you to be careful as you do it. So make sure you read all the instructions carefully. So once you've read them, then you press continue. Okay. Read your passage several times in your preferred Bible. As you read, use the highlighting tool to mark the important words, key ideas, and noteworthy people, places, or events. Highlighting can help you note key aspects of the passage and reinforce your familiarity. Okay. You become more familiar with the ideas of the passage and its ideas. You will begin to develop your own questions about the passage. All right, so you pick your text, pick the version that you want. So maybe it's the Swahili version, maybe it's the NRSV, But whichever version you pick, you read it multiple times, and you can highlight by what you do is you highlight by selecting the text with your cursor, and then you click on this highlight button. So you can click on whichever color you want, yellow, green, any of the colors like that. Okay. And if it feels tedious to read through the text several times, you can listen to it through YouVersion. We talked about listening to it through YouVersion, so you can do that. You can even speed it up and listen to it at 1.5 speed. That's fine too. And then answer these questions. What questions or insights do you have about the passage? Take note of anything in the text that is confusing, surprising, challenging, or hard to understand. Record your questions here and keep them in mind as you explore your passage further. Okay, so put your questions or your thoughts about the passage there. Then read your passage in multiple versions, such as Hebrew or Greek edition, or a variety of English translations can improve your understanding of the passage. Using translations that take different approaches may draw your attention to problems in interpretation. As you read, be sure to notice things that sound strange or that seem confusing. You will want to remember these things for later study. So I want you to read it in Swahili and in English, and take note the differences and in the translation, and make note of those things here. I wonder if the Swahili version is in Logos. Let's see. Swahili. Swahili. So you can search in your library Swahili. Swahili. So you click on all. Swahili. Kiswahili. Habari Njema. Okay, so there it is. So you can read in the Habari Njema and also highlight in the Habari Njema. The differences, and then consider what you've read there. Continue, establish the boundaries of the passage. So what you can do is you can compare the pericopes. You can click here And um, and then you can see how they've divided the passages between ESV, Holman Christian Standard, NIV, UBS. You can change this ESV to NRSV. And see how they've divided up the passages, the boundaries of the passages, and what differences you see. And then identify people. Who are the players? What makes them important? The places, what makes them important? How do the knowledge about them affect the passage? Things and objects. What's the importance of these things in the passage? You can learn a lot about what these things are by seeing pictures. And identify important words in the passage. Explain what is significant about those words. Interpretation stage involved in sorting through what a text meant to the original audience. You'll use Bible reference tools like study guides, Bible dictionaries, study Bibles, or commentaries to learn what you can about what the text could have meant to in its original context. Examine the context of the book. So the key historical context for the passage that you're studying is in the location of the book in which the passage appears. Who's the author? When was it written? Who are the participants? What was the purpose of the writing? These core questions orient us to the broader historical context before we talk about the particulars of what's happening in the given passage. So if you don't know these things, you can look in the fact book. So it says you can look in the fact book. So if you go to the fact book, you can type Exodus, Book of Exodus. And it'll tell you a lot of these things here. Okay. Evaluation. Evaluate the type of literature of your passage. Okay, so it gives you that from this chapter to this chapter is prose, saga, Exodus, report, dialogue, list, genealogy, dialogue. What are the literary types identified in this passage? Do the identified types fit your expectation of what sort of text you are reading? Why or why not? Does the passage have any shifts in type or genre? What significance might those shifts have for the meaning of the passage? Examine the cultural context, the historical context, biblical cross-references, important words. Evaluate discussions of important words in commentaries. So these are going to be your key terms, your key concepts. Commentary discussions, so locate commentaries, so you can find these commentaries. If you click on them, they'll open up in another window. Summarize your passage in 25 words or less. That's not very many words. Summarize the main points. And then your application. So what? What do you learn from this? Determine the passage's theological principles. Establish the primary application of your passage. How has this passage challenged or moved you? What issues, personal or corporate, or involved with this passage? What spiritual struggles are addressed in this passage, either directly or indirectly? So this is like scripture engagement right here. What's the primary application? Share your insights with others. So it's a lot to process, but this is a really important step. And I want you to do this for your passage, for exegesis. Let me know how it goes and how long it took you, and what you learned from it. So I want each of you to do this with your the next chapter in your book. Okay. Bye-bye.